I don't know if we've gotten everyone in the room, but it's 2 o'clock on my watch, actually a little after 2 o'clock. So we're gonna start. Okay? Okay! Woo! Yeah! So, I'm really excited to be here today. I'm way too tall for this podium, and I got 2 mics, but I'll try to make it work. My name is Michael Flarup. Danish pronunciation is Flarup. I am from Copenhagen, Denmark. And I am here to talk to you about one of my absolute favorite things in the world. Something I have been in love with for more than a decade. And I am at Flarup on all the socials if you want to connect, or if you want to tweet or take pictures. I read all of them afterwards and weep because it's awesome. It's a great feedback to get when you're a speaker. And I have been working as a designer for 15 years. I really love making things like icons and branding and logos, and I'm always working on some sort of little silly side project. And I've been making weird stuff in Photoshop for many years. I am a veteran of the skeuomorphic wars. Anyone here remember skeuomorphism? Resist. And a lot of the stuff I like making is like fun, colorful visuals like this stuff here. Lots of icons and weird things. So, and I've also been lucky to be in the driver's seat of all sorts of product design. And I've worked on a lot of products and apps and services and even some hardware and a few games. And in fact, I've always loved making games. I think I've always tried to imbue a lot of the products that we've made with this gamified idea here, right? They're always sort of dragging things both visually and conceptually towards a game feel. And when you look at the stuff that I do, I think it feels very video gamey, a lot of it. So emoji is another one of my favorite things. Who doesn't like emoji, right? The other day I tried to fix that bagel conundrum that Apple introduced in 12.1. You guys remember? A big trouble on the internet with the bagel changing. I was like, hey, we can just make this little bagel emoji picker. And I tweeted that. And 250,000 people saw that on Twitter. So I learned that people really love their bagels. That's really important for people. Another thing that's really important is pizza. And I tried to fix that pizza emoji, right? Because now we're here in Italy, we can talk about it. It's a safe space, right? That's not pizza, right? That first one, right? It's never been pizza. That second one, though, much, much better, right? So actually, I've heard that there's a medal waiting for me here in Italy, and I'll be around if anyone has that medal. I'd like to get it later today. Just come find me. Someone tweeted that. That's fun. Yeah. So today I spend most of my time with my little game studio, Northplay, and I always dreamed of making video games as a kid. Anyone in here dreamed of making video games? Half the room. Awesome. You're in the right room then. So after many years of making things, products, and all that stuff, I finally have a small team, and we make video games, and we also win some awards. Was very drunk here. I'm very surprised. We did not expect to win that award. And we didn't know it at the time, but our first game, Conduct This, turned into a franchise, actually. We ended up doing 3 games, Conduct This and Conduct AR and Conduct Deluxe for your home computer. And all those games are out right now. And Conduct This for iOS is free if you want to try some stuff that we've made afterwards. We're also, anyone in here played Conduct This? Hey, there's some hands. Nice, yay. We're also working on expanding that and a few other projects. This is all under NDA, so please don't take pictures of that. But there's going to be some. It's a hectic couple of weeks at the office right now. Let me assure you of that. When I'm not doing that, I'm working on my design resource platform, Apply Pixels. Anyone in here has heard of Apply Pixels? Anyone in here used my resources in anything? Good, same hands, yes, few resources. So it's essentially a library of Photoshop and sketch files that is sort of constantly growing and evolving, and it's makes it a lot easier for designers and developers to make things like icons and UI and stuff like that, right? And There's a lot of free stuff that you can get on the site if you just go on applypixels.com. We make a lot of device, mock-ups and things like that, and you can just download those. I've recreated a lot of the emojis in Vector. If you need that for any of your resources, it's free to download. But a lot of the premium resources are actually behind this little neat subscription where when you subscribe, it's quite cheap. It's like $9 a month. You get access to all the latest files, always updated by me and Emil, who is working on it almost full-time. And there's a little 50% off discount code here if you're interested checking it out. I'll disable it in a few days, and please don't share that with anyone. That's just for you guys. It's already cheap enough as it is. So, I think people probably most know me for my work on icons. And I have made a lot of app icons over the years. I think chances are that you have probably, I've made some of the icons on your phones. And I'm currently working on a book about icons. And 2 weeks ago, I was in LA to give workshops on icons. I'm sort of becoming like the old man in icon design, like an icon Gandalf. But I really like making icons. And I'll try to share some of that passion and the reasoning why behind today. Now, we're here in beautiful Torino, and this is a very young conference. Any organizers in here? Any conference organizers? No one does? Yeah? One in the back. I looked at the lineup for Swift Heroes, and we have 16 very talented speakers. As far as I could tell, 2 of those are designers, me and Rege. I mean, I generally think we're all designers, but that's a different topic, right? 2 of the speakers had design in their bio. Now, that means that during this event, you'll be exposed to roughly 12% design content. That is obviously a rough estimate, but I think it's a worthwhile observation. And I know this is a developer conference. How many in here are developers? Hands up. Developers. Yeah. How many in here are designers? A few hands. How many in here are dev-signers? That's a few. Okay, fair enough. I think as makers, I think it's really important to be exposed to new things, to truly expand our skill and our understanding. We need to challenge ourselves with things outside of our immediate skill set. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to expand your knowledge today, just make it broader, on something that you might not have thought about, but I'm pretty sure that you all have a relationship to. As one of the few designers, that's going to be my aim today, to expand your knowledge about something you did not think one could care so much about. Okay? You guys are still awake, right? I know it's after lunch, people are a little bummed, right? Let's kick things off with a little video. You guys ready? Go!
This is the App Store. More than 1 million apps available. More than 100 billion apps downloaded. Every day, thousands of people browse these pages in search for utilities, entertainment, and ways to connect with the world around them. Behind every download is a desire to solve a problem, a desire to fill a gap. The people making apps come from all over the world. They work in teams big and small, and sometimes even by themselves. They want nothing more than for the people downloading their apps to solve their problems, to fill their needs, to use what they've made and to be understood. But not all apps are created equal. That connection between maker and user is thin at first. A few taps and swipes on a glass pane is all it gets. In that brief moment, and in a world of distractions and alternatives, makers need to secure attention. With just a few characters and a square canvas of pixels, they need to fire on all cylinders as people roll by them in charts, categories, and searches. You can have a great product, but if you miss that initial connection, chances of a relationship is lost. The hard work and your story won't matter. The initial point of contact is the name of your app and what you do with those 1024 by 1024 pixels. Don't waste them.
Yeah. Woo! Yeah, icons. Wow. Come on in. It's fine. It's fine. Come on. There's room for a lot more. Okay. Let me. I want to try something fun. We're not that many in here, so we can do this, right? We're gonna make all the other people in the other room really jealous that they didn't go into this room, right? So we're gonna do a little a cappella thing here. We're gonna have this side of the room say app. Can I hear it? App? Very good. This side of the room say icons. That's good. App. Icons. App. Icons. Keep it going. Much louder. Keep it going. What do we want? What do we need? Yeah! What are we going to listen to for the next 40 minutes? Yeah! Thank you. Woo! That's the best snap I've ever sent. Okay, great. So app icons, what are they and why should we care? Anyone in here designed app icons before? Hands? It's a safe space. This is we're sharing things here. Okay, icons have been around for a long time, and I'm going to spend almost no time talking about iconography in general today. The history of icons from hieroglyphs to modern interfaces is a really interesting one, but one we do not have time to talk about today. So we're going to talk about this very special area of design that has exploded in the past 10 years with the introduction of the smartphone and everything that came with it, because the app revolution was also the icon revolution.
A phone and an internet communicator.
Remember this?
An iPod. A phone. Are you getting it?
Are you getting it? So Steve is actually introducing the new iPhone using what? App icons. So that changed my life, probably changed some of your lives as well. And you guys are all developers, some few designers and dev designers. App icons, you all know this, but app icons are all these little things here, right? All these little glowing shapes that you'll find in most interfaces, particularly on mobile OSs. You all have them in your pockets. And if you're a developer, you've shipped these. Now, in the past 10 years, we've gone from icons playing some role in the interface to suddenly being the strongest link between maker and user. Touch interfaces much more heavily relies on icons, and the icon above them all is the one that represents the app, right? The one that will be shown in the App Store in search results on your home screen. It's the little image that users will come to connect with your product. It's the first thing they see when they meet you in the App Store. It's what they remember every time they think of your app. It's what they scan for on their home screen when looking for the app. And we call this the app icon, simply just the app icon. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, an app icon really has to solve a lot of tasks. Now, more than ever, really. It has to serve as a strong branding element that can be used both on and off the store. It often has some sort of design legacy or other existing design that it has to fit into. It has to be scalable. It has to work on many different contexts, like tiny icons in settings, small icons on the home screen, big icon on the App Store, huge icon on the walls of DC, right? So there's app icons everywhere, and so an icon needs to stand out and not just look like all the rest of the icons, right? And designers of app icons, us, we need to carefully think about all of these things when we communicate the importance of this design to stakeholders. And when we set out to create that one singular piece of graphic design that will crown an application. It really is a multifaceted discipline. So app icons have consistently been a source of joy and learning in my career. Here's the first app we did at my little product development studio, RoboCat. It was a different weather app called Outside. And it's amazing to me that so much story and so many hours and all that it came to be for us and for the people that used this app can be represented by that single image. Making app icons is truly one of my great passions. I think, to me, iconists were kind of like the jewelers of design in a way, right? We get to craft these tiny little gems, these concentrated pieces of design. And we get to tell this little story in a wonderfully restricted canvas. And we have to create this little scalable branding element, right? And I've made icons like these where you really get to exercise your painterly side, and icons like these where you need to carefully consider every little gradient, every little shape, and where you try to layer meaning into the pixels. And where symbolism is key. And sometimes I even try to mix simplicity with tactility, skeuomorphism. And I love making these little colorful stories, these physical objects, these neon colors, bending shapes, and this dimensionality, really. And I love trying out a lot of different variations before finding that right one, right? And sometimes that's an abstract neon shape, and sometimes that's a whole range of detailed themed icons for games. And sometimes I just do icons for fun. Like these ones here I created for a personal project I call App Icon Wars. Just to play around with the restrictions, like to explore the options. What happens when you remove the outline of an object and force it into that same canvas? How do you conform what's in your head to those restrictions? And you get to play around with advanced rendering. This is all Photoshop, by the way. Materials and reflections, textures and lighting. I love that stuff. Even the more sillier parts of it. And in short, I love making icons. You can tell. And I've made hundreds of app icons for clients around the world and for our own products. And I understand this. Creating that one singular piece of graphic design that users will interact with each time they see your product is a really intimidating task. It's an intimidating task for designers. It's an intimidating task for developers, for everyone that's shipping the product you're working on. And a beautiful, identifiable, and memorable app icon can have like a huge impact on the popularity and the success of an app. But how exactly does one make a good app icon? What does that even mean? This is obviously something I've given a lot of thought over the years, and it's turned into this thing that I call the 5 core aspects of app icon design. Wow, this mic is good. Okay, you can think of this as sort of broad, sometimes slightly overlapping concepts that make sense to discuss when you're designing app icons. Different lenses through which you can view and judge possible solutions. And I'm going to go through each of these aspects. I'm going to discuss the context and the merits of it, and I'm going to see if I can try to give some examples I've encountered and worked with in the real world. And after each example, we'll go all takeaway. Usually my talks don't have bullet points. This talk has. It's crazy, I know, but there's going to be little bullet points, takeaway advice for you to actually bring something back that you can work with. I know it's going to get a little geeky. Does it sound good? Yeah? Yes. Great. Part 1, scalability. You have to do the voice now. So scalability, one of the most important aspects of an icon is obviously how well it scales, right? And because the icon is going to be shown in several places throughout the platform and at several sizes, it is important your creation maintains its legibility. It needs to look good on the App Store, on the home screen, and even in the settings panel. Overly complicated icons that try to cram too much into the canvas often falls victim to bad scalability. Let me give you an example of how we work with scalability in this little thing that we made. We made an app called Breaking. Now, Breaking actually started on the Mac. It was sort of a RSS feed reader for the Mac. And it looked like this fun little thing. And the icon that I made for it looked like that. It's pretty hard to reinvent the RSS icon. That's been done. But I came up with this idea of a rolling wave consisting of a newspaper. And I thought that was kind of fun, kind of cool. And then when it came time to make the iOS counterpart, we ran into some problems. Because I thought, you know what, let's just do this, right? We'll just reuse the wave, easy, right? Unfortunately, those details in the newspaper and the general appliance of lighting just completely disappeared. It just vanished in that little size. In the 120 by 120, it's just sort of muddy. In the 40 by 40, it's like a blob. I hate it. It gives me nightmares, right? So after many iterations, I came up with this. Now, by removing details and sort of focusing on the shapes and the contrasting colors, I sort of managed to create a counterpart that still felt like it related to the original icon, but was appropriate for the context. And as you can tell, like this concept is it much better scales on all the different sizes that we need. So now, the iOS app had sort of a version of the app icon that still felt like it paid tribute to the original Mac app, but had a better fit for the platform it was intended for. Okay, scalability. How do we improve it? You have to have fart sounds in every talk I give. I apologize for my humor. A very big part of the conceptual stages of an app icon should be dedicated to thinking about if any given design scales gracefully. Now, some of the things that you want to do is you want to try to embrace simplicity and focus on a single object, preferably like a unique shape or something that retains its contours all the way down when it's scaled. It's important for me to point out that I would probably be the last person to just say, just go flat, because you've seen my work. That's not what I'm saying. Like, don't necessarily go with a simple thing just don't put too much in there. That's what I'm trying to say. Focus on one thing. You can render the hell out of that thing if you want to. Working on 1024 by 1024 pixels on your 27-inch Retina display, it's actually quite deceptive. You have to try out the icon on the device. And also make sure that it works on a variety of backgrounds. Always try it with the native standard, the default wallpaper. Always do that. You'll be surprised how many people don't change that. So let's look at a couple of icons that has really good scalability. Anyone know what this is? Instapaper. Someone said it over here. There's points. You take some points over here. This is going to be like a little pop quiz every time we show some icons. This is cheating because, of course, it has good scalability. It's an eye on a white background. But I actually quite like this icon because it manages to get some of that newspaper texture in the background. I think that works well, and obviously it scales really well. Overcast. Oh, you missed it. So close. But the points go to this gentleman over here. Overcast. So Overcast has a really good scalability. Something I like about Overcast, I actually think it was Brad Ellis and Louis Mentier that designed this icon. And you can actually see the rings from the iOS icon guideline, the grid. Can you see them? They're in there. You don't have to follow those, but it's a nice little touch, right? Really good scalability. Okay, let's move on to something that's a lot harder. Part 2, recognizability. So, recognizability has a lot to do with scalability that we just talked about, right? In the sense that it's good, it's hard not to have like good recognizability without proper scalability. And while it overlaps conceptually, I still kind of think of it as two separate aspects. Let me try to explain that. Let me get a little poetic here. An app icon is like a little song, and being able to identify it easily in amongst all the noise of the store or your home screen is a key component in great icon design. Like the verse of a song needs to resonate with the listener, so do the shapes, colors, and ideas of an app icon. The design needs to craft a sense of memory and connection on both a functional and emotional level. Wow, that was a lot. So, what does this mean? It sounds really vague, Michael. Let me give you an example. We worked on a tiny little hardware thermometer. Don't get me started. Thermodo. We were also developing sort of a companion app that was going to read, store, and make globally available all the data that you were measuring with this little digital thermometer for your smartphone that we were making. It's a long story. The Thermodos themselves had this sort of tiny little keyring design and came in a variety of colors and finishes. It was the product of a Kickstarter we made. And the actual device was absolutely tiny. It was this little thing that you put into the butt of your phone back when we had, audio ports on our devices. Thank you, Apple. The app we designed had this very minimalistic, clean vibe to it. And so, when you plugged in your Thermodo, it sort of recognized it and spring to life in this wonderfully wavy way. It would help you understand the instant temperature measurements that you are doing, right? So this companion app, which would be following the hardware everywhere, obviously needed an icon, right? So we got to work. We tried a lot of different stuff. From the very simple glyphs to the more neatly rendered versions of the hardware itself. And we had so many discussions about this, and we showed it to people. And there's a million opinions. I'm sure if we took a vote in here, people would be like, oh, it's definitely B2. No, it has to be A4. Like, people have a lot of opinions on icons. The one we went with was this one. Now, the reason why we finally went with this design was because the immediate connection between the hardware you needed and the app that you needed for it to work. Now, it just came away as one of the most important aspects. And in this case, you could say that recognizability as an aspect was as simple as depicting the actual hardware we used with the app. Now, I know that's a little bit of an unfair example because not all of your apps have hardware that you can just show that and then you have good recognizability. But recognizability is in large parts about making something that stands out and says, hey, this is me, I do this, remember? And the user looks at it and says, oh yeah, remember, it does that, right? That's recognizability. It's a really tricky aspect. Okay, improving recognizability. How do we do this? Well, bland, overly complicated icons are kind of like the enemy of recognizability. You want to try removing details from your icon until the concept starts to deteriorate. You want to try out several variations of your design, like I just did. I do that a lot. Just line them up and look over them or show them to other people. And also, you guys have, I'm sure, you curate your home screens. You have app icons you like more than other app icons, right? You all do it. You put them there on the first screen because they're nice. Also because you use them a lot, but they're nice. So why are they nice? Try to deconstruct things that you already like and figure out why you like them and use that in your designs. 1Password, points. Everyone gets points. 1Password. So 1Password, I think, has really good recognizability. They use that little keyhole on all the platforms. Super recognizable. It's like that little blue ring. It's obviously a keyhole. It connects well with the whole concept of password keeping. I think it's really, really good. High recognizability. You need to think of these different aspects. Any in here that play video games? It's like stats in an RPG, right? You can have really high recognizability, really poor something else. Or you can have really good in all the stats. And we're trying to improve your icons in all these different stats. Clear. Points, points, points. Clear. So, super recognizable. Everyone copied this afterwards, the banding of the gradients, so maybe not so recognizable anymore. But when it came out, it was really nice, even though I have a thing or two to say about checkmark icons later. Spark. I'm just saying, over here, this team over here is winning right now. So. Spark, email client. I think Spark does something really clever in terms of recognizability. It totally piggybacks on the colors of the native iOS mail app. I think if I dropped that color, dropped that color, you'd see it's really close to the actual native mail app icon. So it's kind of a clever thing. It's very recognizable, good shape. Okay, let's move on. Something that's a lot easier.
Part 3, consistency.
There's something to be said for creating consistency between the experience of interacting with your app icon and interacting with the app it represents. I think this makes a lot of sense. So I feel like good icon design should be like an extension of what the app is all about, making sure that the two support each other will create a more memorable encounter, right? I have an excellent example here. This is Thermo. This is an app we made. It's actually what started that whole crazy Kickstarter thing, because we got a bad one-star app review on Thermo because he couldn't, this app, someone took it to the bathroom and then took it in the living room, and they were very angry at us because it didn't actually measure the temperature differently. So that's why we made the hardware, actually. Don't read the app. Don't read your app reviews. It'll just give you a 2-year project. Thermo is a really fun little richly rendered interface, complete with animations and sounds, like this little weather app. We've made a lot of weather apps. And we even introduced like a theme store in Thermo, where you would buy other themes for your thermometer, because who doesn't want a steampunk thermometer on their phones? A lot of people want that, apparently. So there was just something about the vibe of the app, like the warm wooden settings, back when we were allowed to do that, with the deep red liquids inside the vials, and they all came together to create sort of a very themed experience. And so what did the app icon look like? Like this. Now you'll notice how we've sort of continued the same visual universe in the app icon, the colors and the textures. It creates this strong, consistent experience and this connection with actually using the app, right? You tap that thing, you go into the app, it's completely seamless. It feels like, oh yeah, of course, these things belong, right? And Thermo actually has more than 7 million downloads. And I think a big part of that was that consistency, how well it was branded all the way out through to the app icon. So, improving consistency, this is much easier. One way to ensure consistency between app and icon is to use a similar design language between the two things. So if you have a primarily green interface, let's just say that, you're making a money-based app or whatever, maybe the icon needs to be green, right? It's not that hard. You also want to keep the colors of the interface and the icon in line. Also, if you can, this is a little more wishy-washy, but if you can, have symbolism directly relate to the app. So in this case, we were making a thermometer app. We had like the thermometer vial there. And I know some of you guys, you're creating way more abstract things that doesn't have direct symbolism. Like, this is how we have Git fork structures, and then we need to put that in the app icons. Like some really abstract stuff, right? So it's not always possible, but think about if there's some sort of symbolism you can tie to the icon. I'll come up with a few examples. Fantastical. Fantastical. Again, you have to be better over here. They're winning. Fantastical. It's a calendar app, right? What does the app look like? Like that. It's the colors, the same colors. It's literally a calendar. It's a great consistency, right? Also a great app, by the way. Weatherline points to this part. We're definitely going to divide it. It's much better. So it's this part over here against this part here. Weatherline. Not a lot of people actually get that. An app icon that I surprisingly did not work on, even though I've worked on a lot. Icon design by Brad Ellis, I think. I love this little app because their main thing is that they use these little bars to denote time. That's the whole thing. And look what they brought out into the app icon, right? Nice. They brought some of the UI, the whole idea of the app, into the app icon. Good consistency. Points for both sides. Fair enough. It's a map. It's literally a map. It's what the actual app looks like. Crazy high consistency, right? That's consistency. Easy aspect to get right. Let's get to a much harder aspect. Part 4, uniqueness. Okay, uniqueness. Wow. This almost goes without saying. You want to try to make something that's unique, right? Mimicking a style or a trend is perfectly fine, but see if you can make it your own in a way. Now, your app icon is sort of constantly competing with other icons for the user's attention, and standing out can be a perfectly valid argument for a design. I think uniqueness is a tricky part of design because it doesn't really only rely on what you do as a designer, but also what everyone else is doing and putting out in the field. So you wanna make research a really important point here. You wanna really do your research and see if there's any overused concepts and then try to avoid them like the plague, right? I have a perfect example. Are you guys ready? Boom. Check Markageddon. Is what I call this. This here is a perfectly good example of how uniqueness as an aspect didn't enter into the design process. This is a screenshot of the productivity app genre on the old store. Wow. So, okay, how do we improve uniqueness? Well, you gotta research, you consider what everyone else is doing, right? And then try a different direction. Always do your research. A singular glyph on a one-color background can be a really tricky route to go down if you want to stay unique. You want to play around with some different colors, and you want to play around with compositions and challenge yourself to find new and clever metaphors. Color is an often great and overlooked way of repositioning a concept. I have the next example. I'm going to change to it in a moment, but I'm going to see if you can guess it up front. Does anyone, probably on your home screen, have a really brightly yellow-colored app icon? What's that app? Snapchat. Snapchat. Just from the description, what's going on here? What is that thing? It's a ghost, right? I've been discussing this with friends for a long time. It's a ghost. I gave this talk in London a while back, and a guy comes up to me after the talk, and he was like, "Michael, it's not a ghost, it's a condom." I was like, "What? With hands? Right? What's going on?" I think it's a ghost. I think it's because they disappear. Is that why? I don't know, but it worked, right? It worked. Really high uniqueness. I think that's a really interesting little case. You guys just knew it. I mean, of course, it's a very popular app, but there's something going on there with that icon. Tweetbot, you guys are fast. I love Tapbots, and they're just sticking to their guns about creating. If you guys don't know, they have like these several little apps, and all of them are these little bots. They stick to this little cute anime style with like little faces and things. I think that's so awesome. It has character. It's super unique, right? It's just not, you know, another glyph on a one-color background. Deliveries. There was some over here. I'm gonna go half C's on the points, I think. I'm not keeping track. Deliveries by JuneCloud. I love this icon. It's super unique. It's about tracking packages. It's a brown app icon. Who would have thunk that worked? But it does, and I think it's awesome. It's really unique. Here, the next icon does not exist anymore, but you can still guess at it. Square. Well, someone just read it out. Fair enough. Still points to you, sir. Square. Now, this is not a very good app icon, but I like it. It's kind of unique, right? We all know what that material is. I think that's so amazing. Like, it's so cool. It's not a great app icon. It has really poor aspects in the other aspects, but lacks contrast and all these other things. That's probably why they don't use it anymore. But I think it's an awesome idea. Let's just talk about one last thing when it comes to uniqueness. Something that is really near and dear to me, and it's this thing here. What's going on here, guys? What's happening? Yeah, white. What the fuck? What? This has to stop right now. I'm not saying you can't put out a white app icon. I've done it plenty of times. I'm just saying, like, this seems like mediocre design. It just seems like a fallback. Oh, we'll just put the logo on a white background because that's white space, right? It's really taking the easy route. I think you could probably do more, right? And when you do choose to do a white app, I can do it because there's a reason for it. Don't just fall back on it, right? Okay, last one. You guys still with me? Yes, good. No one's fallen asleep. This guy over here is a little tired, I see. Part 5. Don't use words or logos. Now, this is maybe not so much a core aspect of icon design, but rather one of my favorite top pet peeves. First of all, let's just disband with the craziness. No words. No words in icons. We can all agree on that. I don't think that's a controversial thing to be saying. I think if you have to retreat to another tool of abstraction, the written word, I'd say that you're not using the full force of your pictorial arsenal, right? Words and pictures are separate representational tools, and mixing them in what is supposed to be a graphical representation is just cluttered. It's unfocused. A good place to visit when you're in doubt is Apple's Human Interface Guidelines. They have this to say about words. Use words only. I can't do a Tim Cook impression, otherwise I have to practice that. But use words only when they're an essential part of a logo. An app's name appears below its icon and on the home screen. Don't include non-essential words that repeat the name or tell people what to do with your app. Why do I see so many words in app icons then, right? We want to avoid this. An example I gave at Adobe Max. This is what you want to avoid doing, right? It's just redundant inclusion of text. Now, that out of the way, let's talk about something that's a lot more controversial and that a lot of people are doing. So, let's talk about logos. Now, this bit here is controversial because a lot of big companies are doing this. Now, I think there are many reasons why they do this, but in most cases, I disagree with that decision. Now, first of all, icons and logos are not the same thing, right? We can all agree on this. They're two separate design disciplines. Their goals, restrictions, and the tools are separate. Look, logos are these infinitely scalable, unrestricted branding elements that usually consists of either a word mark or a symbol or both. They're meant to be displayed on everything from letterheads to billboards. Now, icons, on the other hand, are usually restricted to a square canvas and produced to display well in specific sizes across a digital platform. Their restrictions are different. We often use pixel tools instead of vector tools to control the output of specific raster sizes. And as we just learned, most of the time an icon is accompanied by the app name underneath. Logos are not. So this is an image from the American icon designer Louis Mantilla. He tweeted this. I think it's an excellent example. I'm using it in my talk. Check out his work. He's amazing. So he shares the same view as me. He made these alternative icons for Lyft and Caviar and Hulu because he also believes that icons aren't logos. And when we scan for something on our phones, you're going to get a stronger response if you're looking for something that has a connection to what the app does. And while we're pretty good as humans to track logos, we're even better to actually recognize pictograms. So putting your logo in there, particularly if it spells out the name of the app, is also very redundant. So I actually think all of these are improvements. Lyft is a car service, right? You guys know. Hulu is a TV streaming platform. I think this is really important. So the problem with metaphors is that on the App Store, common things like playing media is usually written with generic icons. I think it's a valid thing to go in and say, well, Louis, or Michael in this case, should we all then just have TVs on the logos, all the streaming channels? And Louis followed up with this fantastic example where he's basically showing people, hey, look, you can actually use your branding values and still create a meaningful metaphor and still have it be YouTube or Netflix or have those things bleed through, right? I think these are quite good, and I certainly think they're better than just putting names in squares. Okay, so if you're in a meeting room and someone suggests using words or just a logo in a square, you need to remember that words and pictures are separate representational tools. You don't need to include the app name in the icon, this is obvious, and your company logo is rarely a good solution. Maybe if you have a mark or glyph that works really well in a square, but if not, then try to come up with something else, right? I also want to add this, that actually this is an interesting thing. A lot of people think about app icons today when they're building or redesigning a brand. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but we've seen a bunch of popular companies move away from pure word marks or unwieldy symbols and who either intentionally or unintentionally now use symbols that work well within a square canvas. This right here, is the power of app icons. We've basically taken the age-old branding institution and forced them into a squircle. That's what's going on here. This is crazy powerful stuff. So anyone who's in this room being like, yeah, icons are a fun little niche. Look at it. It's shaping massive products. This is super important stuff. Okay, to sum up, I want to make sure that your icons are scalable, that your icons are recognizable, that your icons are consistent with everything else, that your icons are unique, and that you don't use words or just smack your logo on there if you can avoid it, right? Good. I hope this makes sense. Take a picture of that if you want. How long do I have left? Okay, so what, 4 minutes? Yikes, we're gonna go over time. No, I'm sorry. I brought a few case studies. We're gonna go through them really quickly. I just wanted to show you how I work with some of these things, to see if we can employ some of these things. I have a YouTube channel. Feel free to check it out.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Design with Me.
Yes, enough of that. But there's a lot of stuff where I try to deconstruct some of these things, and you can go and check that out. This is fun. I've just told you not to make checkmark icons, and I made a checkmark icon. But this is kind of an interesting process. My process is usually sketch out an idea and then render it. If you've seen by now, you see that I love doing stuff that has some dimensionality to it, right? And and I like if there's a little hidden thing in there. And this does that. It has like, it's called one reminder, and it has like a little one sign and then a check mark. So it has something, right? Final icon looks like that. We're getting a lot of people in here. Let's end strong then. I'm going to go through these edge cases, these cases really quickly. A lot of the times when you do icons, you're going to get like some really generic stuff. Like, oh, we have to make an icon for a social tagging network. Super hard to do. So, we came up with this idea with a tag and a social thing inside it. Try to come up with little clever ideas for that, like stuff like that. This is an icon I did way back, really old. And the client came back to me and said, hey, do you want to redesign it? And we worked on that, and it was a really fun project. And we ended up with sort of more of a modern look. Also, stuff on the channel is...
My own sketch to create that object.
Stuff like that. And this is the final icon that we ended up with. A fun brief I got from a client was, hey, you'll often get stuff like this for clients, like, hey, top secret, we want the app is about the app is about secure shells, and we want there to be like the concept should be about a shellfish, because that's the idea the client had. And I was like, what? How do we make an app about shellfish that's secure? By the way, we tried a lot of different things, and we ended up settling on that sort of clamshell locked up thing. And a lot of these were a little too colorful, and we ended up doing that, which I think is really nice. I'm not even sure I'm supposed to show you this because it's not out yet. The last one I want to show you, I want to show you an app that I think you've actually used. Has anyone in here used Working Copy? That's a few, yeah, a few hands. Working Copy is sort of an app that has a lot to do with code, and the concept that Anders approached me with was like, Michael, we should represent fork structures on Git in a sexy icon. I was like, what? How do you even do that? What's that about? So, and I had this idea of like, oh, this could be like, it's called Working Copy, so it's like a W turned on the side, and it still looks like fork structures on Git. And we went down this whole rabbit hole of rendering this thing, and it was like, I don't like it. What do you do as a designer when someone doesn't like the thing that you're doing, right? We started over, and we came up with this idea of having like little nodes that sort of connect to each other, and having those be like the little fork Git structures. And the icon actually turned out really nice, I think. So sometimes, even us designers, we don't really know what the hell we're doing because we don't understand the domain, and then we can get some help from our clients. So I'm going to wrap up now. We are twice as many as we started. I wish you all had been here from the beginning. We had competitions, and we had singing, and it was amazing. Anyways, on the App Store and on Google Play, there are many examples of bland and unopinionated icon designs. Your icon is the strongest connection you'll have with your user. Anything short of a well-thought-out, fitting, and attractive solution is a failure to utilize your greatest visual asset. And I hope some of these tips here I've outlined today will help you make better icons, or at least engage in conversations about them with your peers. And I know that that's great, right? Still a few people wondering, like, why not just leave icons to those very specific individuals who care and specialize in these things, right? First of all, I want to say to those people that icons are an increasingly bigger part of any designer's vocabulary. And if you're a UI designer or a developer, even like a web designer or a web developer, there's really no reason why you shouldn't have an informed opinion on the matters of icons. If there's also an even bigger picture that I'm trying to get at here. It's that, you've already guessed it probably. Some of these things that we've talked about today, there's a certain universal quality to these aspects, right? Scalability, recognizability, consistency, and uniqueness. And championing all of these things in a restricted canvas will make you think differently about design as a whole. Becoming an iconist will make you a better designer, and I also think it will make you a better developer. So go and make some icons. Thank you.